And motivation is good. It can provide a spark or anything like that, but you cannot run off of motivation. So a lot of people are like, man, what's your motivation? I'm like, man, I'm fucking driven.
Thank you for doing this for me.
Oh, no,
I know your time's important to you, so I'll just get right to it.
Yeah.
So you just got this first round TKO at United Fight League. How does it feel getting that win back after a submission loss just recently?
Oh man, it's huge. It's like the biggest rebound effect because everybody makes this big deal about being undefeated, and it starts to create this kind of like looming pressure of people expect you to win number one all the time, no matter what happens. Amun's gonna win. He hasn't lost in 5 years, right? And then on the opposite of that, it's like they expect you to win, and then the other half are like, when is he gonna lose? The people who got time in the game, like the people who are aware of how the sport works. Like this is mixed martial arts. There's styles make fights. Like I fought a world champion kickboxer. We fought for 3 minutes. For 2.5 minutes, it was a very even fight. He made one mistake. It was over. I fought a high-level jiu-jitsu guy the next match, and I have good jiu-jitsu. And I made one mistake, a minute over, and I'm like, at this stage of fighting, where the level is way higher than like when I was like riding through amateurs. Like when I was going through amateurs, I was game planning, and I don't think the amateurs were game planning. They were just going there to fight. So everybody would ask me, like, you made it look easy. And I was like, man, I just follow my coach's advice. Like, I just literally shut my brain off, and whatever they say, they just playing the moon video game. I'm like, yo, whatever they say, I'll do. And, like, that's when I really realized how important being, like, a IQ fighter is. Because, like, most fighters are tough. They'll fight. They'll bite down on their mouthpiece. But you need that in your back pocket when your game plan is not going as well. So for me, everybody was like, man, what's one of the most important like assets of a fighter? And I always say is your ears. Because like Cole calls it the fog of war. Like when you're in war and the bullets are flying, things get hazy. Like you forget your tiny little details. You might put a clip in the gun and forget the cock. And you just, oh shit, and you're like, oh my God, but like the bullets are coming at you. So like that's what it's like in fighting is you're standing in front of someone and you want to throw something, you want to do it. But it's the fog of war. Maybe you're putting yourself in a position where you're not aware of it because of the tension so high. But that's what your corner is for. Cole, 20-time UFC vet. Bubby, fighting for a long time. Lathan Lawson's like the head of my corner. And they're like, hey, when they see stuff, they'll just recognize if I don't see it, and they'll throw it out there. And I'm always said, like, having, shut your mind down, open mind, and just open your ears. That's like the victory to
that's perfect. That goes into it speaks for yourself. You go back and look at your fights. It's all first round. You adapt to everything quick, and boom, it's lights out or they're done. And I noticed that it's like first round finishes. It's all you got. You haven't really faced some adversity for sure, but like you've definitely weathered the storm as early as you can and just been able to get the finish and capitalize on people not doing what you're just talking about right now.
So all of my fights that from amateur until pro, amateur I'll just kind of leave out the way, but pro, all my fights as a pro that went the distance, I had 2 of them, was simply because I was in there fighting and I wasn't following a game plan. And literally I had chances to finish both of those fights multiple times. And if you would have seen Cole and Lathan and myself in the locker rooms after the fight, you would have thought I lost, because I'm like, and I recognized it because I've had people in interviews afterwards, man, that was such a good fight. You dominated 3 rounds. I'm like, no, I had 3 chance to finishes in each round. That's 9 chances. And when I'm on the highest level, if you have 9 chances to finish and don't, this guy's going to come back. He's going to do this, because just as many mistakes he made, I made mistakes too. He just didn't capitalize. He capitalized by staying in the fight. I didn't finish the choke. I got Cole was pissed off at me. I made it to the back like 3 times in 2 separate fights and didn't finish the choke. And he's like, yo, we get the back, the fight is over. And that's how I feel too. So literally after my Mike Wilson fight went 3 rounds, we went in the back in the locker room, literally started arguing. Literally started arguing. He's like, and I'm like, yeah, I know what I did. But it was a genuine, like, I was upset at myself so much that I was like, you don't even have to tell me. He was like, well, I don't have to say anything, then we're good. And the administrative promoter walks in and she's like, is everything okay? Because she's about to hand me my fight check and like, she's like, y'all in here like upset.
Yeah.
You would have thought that I lost the fight, but that's the difference maker. What you said before is like, you see like the first round finishes is my job is to adjust while the chaos is happening. And I study a lot of fighters, and I've said this before, is there's a difference between the good and the great. And the good, you got fighters that can improve from fight to fight, but the whole fight has to be done. You have to go back, you have to watch the tape, this, that, and the third. The really good, the really, really good fighters can adjust from round to round. Like something's going on, the corner comes in there doing this, boom, they adjust from round to round. The great fighters, your Mayweathers, your Alis, your Mighty Mouses, the technicians, your Bernard Hopkins, like these fighters, you see them adjust in the round. And that's the biggest difference. The round can be going one way, but we have to adjust right here under fire. So composure and learning to read live fight stuff, live fight action while it's going on under the fog of war, that only takes time. That's experience. It's something me and Cole talked about a long time. The word is epinosis. It's a Greek word. And gnosis means like knowledge. And epinosis means like wisdom. And it's like, well, the only thing that separates knowledge and wisdom is experience. Wisdom is knowledge gained through experience. And I was always concerned that like, I don't have enough fights. I don't have enough experience. He said, bro, stop that. He's like, you might not have 20 pro fights. You might have 5 or 6, but you've been in a million training camps. You've done everything. Like, literally, it's just a cage in a different place. The only way experience will matter is for those who think the experience matter. Like, for you, you have the experience. You're training with guys who have 20, 30 plus fights, this, that, and the third. And it's like, I feel like being in the cage and being under fire, and with my coaches, with Lathan Lawson and Cole Miller and Bubby Mitchell, like, they allow me to adjust in the cage. If I don't know it, they'll let me know right away, and I'll start to do it. If you tune in, if you turn the volume up, I hit the last fight. This happened twice now, both my knockouts, one in my amateur career and one in my pro career. 15 seconds before my first knockout in my amateur career, you can hear my coach. I made a read, and you'll hear my coach say, "There it is, Moon. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up." You can hear like he's clapping like, "Yo, pick it up, pick it up." Like, you saw it, I saw it, you made the right call, and then 10 seconds later, I knocked the guy out. Literally, in this same fight, you'll hear when I made a call, I switched to southpaw, jab, check, hook, and you can hear Bubby say, "There it is, Moon. You see it, you see it." I switch, knockout, and it's like, that's the speed at which things are happening, and the ability to adjust in action is going to be the difference between winning and losing. I just so happen to be on that losing side in August in Savannah, but like, it's about what you do after a loss. Ali's loss, Tyson's loss. Mayweather didn't lose, but he's lost somewhere, maybe not on the professional stage, but he didn't get to where he's at by winning everything. And like, a lot of people were making this huge deal about me taking an L because they've never seen me lost. So like, people were kind of reaching out to me and like babying me, coaxing me. They're like, "Hey man, you okay? How you doing?" It's like 3-4 weeks after the loss, and I was like, "Bro, like,
it's over."
It was over after I lost. I was already thinking about like, oh, how do I rebound, get back to the next one? Like, that's it. He caught me slipping. He was the better man that night. Like, that's the end of it. But I just can't like say it enough. It's what you do after that. And in this training camp, and the crazy part about it with that loss was the least worst thing that was happening to me in my life. So it was a crazy thing that like, I had all this crazy shit going on in my life. And that loss, when I got it, I was just like, I was almost numb to it because I already had other shit going on. And in this fight, in this training camp, I lost my grandmother 3 weeks before the fight, and then I also lost a guy who was like a brother to me the day after I lost my grandmother. It was like back to back. I was like, or lost him and then lost my grandmother, and then we had the funeral service I buried.
And to speak on that, so you got all this stuff going on. You're really trying to stay motivated. How's the weight cut going when you're going through all this?
It ain't got shit to do with motivation. That's what everybody is so fooled with. Like part of my brand, MMA for me stands for motivation and martial arts. And motivation is good. It can provide a spark or anything like that, but you cannot run off of motivation. So a lot of people are like, man, what's your motivation? I'm like, man, I'm fucking driven. Like, I'm here when I want to be here. I'm here when I don't want to be here. I'm doing all the things that I'm doing my best in all the areas that I think that'll benefit me. And I call it, for a weight cut, I literally tell people I'm trimming the fat. I know I'm literally getting smaller, but I'm trimming the fat of my life. And every time I go into a fight camp or a training camp, that's what's going on. I'm like, I don't need to be on media as much. I can't Netflix binge. I can't eat the shit that I enjoy, but I know it's not good for me. I can go out on a weekend because I only have 2 training sessions on the weekend versus 4. But like, why do that? It's going to interrupt my sleep. It's like, hey, look, I know my family lives an hour and a half away. We have a lot of stuff going on, but I sacrifice my time with my family so I can get the result in the cage, because I know that that's going to make them more proud than the hour or 2 that I could spend with them or spend with my nieces and things like that. And it was rough because my grandmother, fortunately passed of just old age. Like she had complications for her age, and her body just, it couldn't hold up to, the stuff that she was going through. And so it's a weird thing when someone's about to pass for a month, 2 months, and you're just kind of waiting for that moment. And I'm the only man with my last name in my family. Like, I have all women in my family. My dad's dead. My uncles are dead. Only one that carries the last name is me. So to not be there with my family, knowing that my mom's going through it, my sisters are going through it, like, that's fucking drive. That fight I walked out, I reminded myself it has nothing to do with feeling or motivation. People were asking me, man, you ready to go out there and get that win? I said, I don't give a fuck about a win. I'm gonna go out there and do my job and support and represent everybody in my family that represents me. And it's just a job.
Thank you so much for sharing that, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
People love to hear it because, people see these fighters, there's so much that's outside of the cage. There's so much that just happens out that they don't know about. They just think they're, they see you on TV, they see the knockouts, they just see you as this guy that's there to entertain, but they've got a whole other story outside that they are dealing with. They're going to these training camps, which that not everyone sees. They're not seeing the amount of stress, and your body is just going through everything, the weight cut. Like, they're not seeing all of that. That's all behind the scenes, and that's a big thing that I really want to just kind of bring awareness to just the average people. People watch it, but they're not aware of what goes on behind the scenes. They don't know what happens, what they have to do to get to the point that you got to. To get to that point, you have to train for months at a time, and then pay the bills, pay your manager, pay your corner.
Oh man, they have no clue. I'm like, when people see me on these like grand stages, and like one guy saw me at Max Fitness cutting weight, and he knew I fight because I've been there a bunch, and he saw me on UFC Fight Pass, so he was curious, like, man, how much you get paid for that fight? Like, he's like, I don't want to like give you money. I was like, oh, you think fighters make money? I was like, $500. He was like, you on UFC Fight Pass? I was like, so much that you think because you saw someone on this stage. And I said, yeah, so you prepare for a fight? Yeah, like, okay, 5 and 5. 500 to show, 500 to win. I won the fight, so I made $1,000. And I was like, oh man, that's good for 15 minutes worth of action. I was like, but what about the 3 months that I was preparing for this fight? The $3,000 I spent on nutrition, the other $1,000 I had to spend on getting massages and going to the physical therapist to get my fucked up, because I went into that fight with a fucked up neck, to get my neck worked on every week. That's fucking expensive because I don't have insurance and this, that, and the third. And then I just start like laying all this stuff on the line. And I was like, oh, I was like, man, you guys just see like the tip of not even 10%. You probably see 5% of what's really going on. And I'm like, on top of that, like I work full time. I'm a full time martial artist. I train. I teach kids. I teach the youth. I teach adult classes. I teach at two gyms, and I have private clientele that allows me to cover my bills and pay for everything. So I'm still living my dream. But a lot of people have this. My real good friend Malcolm just made a post yesterday, and I was like, very well said. He was like, shout out to Wall of the Machine, Malcolm Wellmaker is also like a teammate, fellow 135er as well on the rise. And he was like, man, people say like, when you're living your dream, you'll never work a day in your life. And I was about to say something, and I clicked the rest of the post, and it was like, that's bullshit. And it was like, yeah, you're living your dream, but like to take it one step further, like if you wake up and you're living your dream and you forget the biggest ingredient is to go out there and work for it, you'll lose your dream. Your dream will turn into a nightmare. Or if you're living your nightmare and you go out there and don't work to make it your dream, then you'll just live your nightmare. So like the key ingredient is the work, So it's like there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes that people have no idea. I'm like, people are like, oh my God, you getting ready for a fight this week? Well, how do you feel? How's the weight cut going? I'm like, I hate those questions. Don't ask me if I'm ready, how I feel, how's the weight cut going. I'm a 155-pound individual that I need to drop 20 pounds in this.
I know that fighters are most miserable on the day where they're getting asked the most questions. Like they're cutting weight, they're tired, they haven't eaten, I see that all the time. Why would you interview someone on the day that they're trying to drop an extra 10, 15 pounds, limiting their water and food intake? It's convenient.
It's convenient,
it's
right?
Yeah,
just no. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone.
That brings up a question. So how do you feel about the whole weight cutting thing? So it's like you weigh in at 135, but you weigh 160 fight night?
No.
150?
150.
150. So you're
15
pounds over. Yeah. How do you feel? Do you feel that fighters should fight at their regular weight, or do you feel like they should just do this, what we're doing now?
Obviously, there are, anytime you talk about the human psychology, and we're always looking for an advantage. Mm-hmm. So if they didn't do weight cuts, people would try and find out what the most legal way to get an advantage would be. What people would consider a big advantage in weight classes if you can be a bigger person in a weight class. That's only an advantage if you can make it an advantage to you. You got guys cutting way more than me to make it down to 135. And I'm just like, I'm a performance athlete, bro. I'm fast for my weight class. I'm also not weak. Even though I'm not the biggest guy, I might not be the biggest guy in my weight class. I'm probably at the top tier as far as like strength wise in my weight class. So I'm like, I'm not concerned if you got 5 pounds on me and you're slow as dirt. I'll hit you. I'll be out. Or when we get down like to the ground, like we'll see what it's like. It does make a difference, but a lot of people are choosing a weight and strength advantage over fight IQ and technique. And like technique is unlimited.
Bronze over brain is what they're choosing.
Technique is unlimited.
Yeah.
You can use technique when you have all the energy. You use technique when you have none of the energy, right? But like the common thing is the energy. Like you get tired, you get the fog of war. All these other things are going on. So the more you commit to like technique and getting down to the weight safely, then it's cool. Like my thoughts on it is I entered, fighting, at this age where there's a lot of resources out there. Like it's not hard for me to cut weight. Oh my God, you dropped from Friday to that, you weigh 20 fucking pounds. I'm like, yeah, but there's so much information out there. Like if you did a little bit of research, you realize it's not that hard to get. And guess what? I know because I did the research. And it just so happens like over the years of my career, like, yeah, I like certified as a personal trainer. I'm in fitness and nutrition for what it can do for me long term after fighting. And it's like, I know how to get down there. So for me and my team, I'm like, hey, look, when we can get down there, we can get down there. So like, you have to follow the rules of the system, and it's the system that's in place. Do I think it's stupid? Yes. Do I want to cut 20 pounds in 1 week for a fight just so I can be on a scale of 135 for 1 second and then get off? No, I don't. Whereas in human nature, survival instinct is the key goal. Is
kill or be killed.
Kill or be killed, but like I want to live, I want to reproduce, I want to be here longer. These are like natural instincts, and when you have to when you're dehydrating yourself of, 15, 20 pounds of water is where you really start to go to these places in your mind and start to navigate places that most people don't even know is in there. And because I've done this for a long enough time, I've done the weight cuts bad, and they just improve better and better. You don't know until you know, right? And what you don't know will kill you, literally. I've had weight cuts where I'm not even cutting a full 20 pounds, but like not doing it correctly, I feel like death. And I'm like, mentally, you got to be strong enough to push through there. I know, like sitting in that water, I tell people, man, when you're dehydrated and you got to cut those last. For me, it's always the last 2 or 3 pounds. I know 18 pounds or 17 pounds or 15 pounds it sounds like a lot, but it's the last 2 pounds that I got to go to another place mentally in my head, and it's painful. I said, imagine sitting in a tub. You're dehydrated as fuck. So the irony is, as bad as you want water, you can't get it, but you're sitting in a tub of it. And it's hot.
It's torture.
And it feels like you're suffocating. Someone's squeezing you from the inside.
Yeah.
And it's like every breath just is. And then if you do it in a sauna where you're now you just have this hot air going in your nose, and it's miserable. But like, for me, maybe I'm a little crazy. I just feel like I get a mental edge because I know that the other guy's suffering, and I get this thought, like, he's not suffering like me.
Yeah.
Maybe if I enjoy this suffering just a little bit, like, it gives me a little bit of an edge. And then when they miss weight, I know I won the fight because I'm like, you weren't even willing to go to the edge to do your first job. Your first job as a fighter is to make the weight. So if you didn't make the weight, you're not even ready to fight me.
Yeah.
So for me, that gives me a dink, like, oh, that's a big piggy bank, because I know when times get rough,
Struggling with it.
if we in the cage and it's time to suffer, I'm doing bad, and I'm gonna make this a fucking dog fight. Like, I know when we suffer, I know somebody's gonna crack because they didn't make weight.
Yeah.
I made weight. Maybe my cracking limit is a little bit further than yours, and if I have to, let's take it there.
Yeah.
Like, if the fight's not going according to plan, literally before that fight, this guy was doing all the mean looking and shit. And I'm just like, man, like, I haven't seen it a million times. Like, that doesn't, like, it literally does nothing to me. I never, like, that doesn't, and fighting is selfish. I'm just like, man, this guy don't even exist. This fight's about me.
Yeah. So you fought under a new promotion, United Fight League. I want to talk about this because this was their first event? First event. And it was Grand Prix, so you'll fight for them again since you won. Okay, so go into this. How was it fighting for them and being featured on their first event? United Fight League.
Yeah, the UFL, the United Fight League, from the top down, Harrison Rogers, Rampage Jackson, Frank Mir, Tito Ortiz, Sophia. I have never been a part of something more professional in my entire life. And I feel like I started fighting on the local shows, then I got bumped up, and then when I fought for Icon and UFC Fight Pass, oh my God, this professional is good. And it's like because my career is going in the like step ladder, which is the good way, it's like each fight and each promotion is getting better and better. And like fighting with the UFL, it has literally changed my perspective on fighting. The reason being is I've been fighting since 2016. And you would think when you go pro that you would deal with less problems as a professional athlete because now you're not an amateur, you're an actual contract. People are getting paid to do this, so people take a little pride in what they do. I dealt with more problems as a pro than I did as an amateur. And this is, imagine it, pre-COVID and then post-COVID, all the extra problems. And there is a looming weight that I couldn't tell you how hard it feels when this is what you do for a living, right? And this is how you pay your bills. And you don't know when the next time you're going to fight. Because after COVID, promotions aren't signing fighters to multi-fight contracts. They're fighting for one, see how it is, and then next. So you're literally training every day, twice a day, or every day of the week, however your training schedule is set up. And your manager and you are just looking, hey, when is the next fight's at? Scavenging. And then you don't even know. So now you're like, okay, I got 3 months rent saved. A month goes by, I got 2 months rent saved. Now it's like, okay, all right, what's going to happen now? That's just one aspect of it. Then you don't even know if you're fighting. Then you sign the contract, and then you don't know. You don't know when you're fighting. You don't know who you're fighting. You don't know where you're fighting. So the ability to make money as a fighter, I have a huge fan of, I don't like to call them fans. like say supporters. I have a huge support base here in Georgia. And when I fight in Georgia, I can capitalize that these people come to events to support me, so I can like leverage that to the promoter to pay me more money or get more ticket commission or whatever. Now I got everybody like, hey man, when you fight? I'm like, shit, your guess is as good as mine, right? Like maybe sometime soon.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be in Atlanta? I don't know. Oh, when you what month? Maybe I can go there. I don't know. Right? So it starts to create this looming like weight of when, where, what, how, like how much am I gonna get paid? Because now they coming from out of town, they're not gonna pay you good, or they're bringing you in to be sheep on to their like golden boy in whatever city you're at. Oh yeah, we'll fly you out and like have you fight fucking Khabib, and I'm like, no, like I'm cool enough, but that's not my weight class. So it's a lot of things that's going on, and what the UFL did, they answered 5 questions that I have that cause friction, like unwanted friction in my life. They told me how much I'm gonna get paid. They told me when I'm gonna fight. They told me where I'm gonna fight. And then because I'm in a tournament, we know who I'm gonna fight. I could just fucking train.
Mm-hmm. You have nothing else to worry about.
Nothing else to worry about. And they didn't just answer that. Then they said, oh, we're gonna cover you health insurance outside of the fight. How much better do you think my train is gonna be now that I don't have to go in skittish that maybe I might, do I want to roll with that guy, spar with that guy? I have a tweaked knee or this. And Michael Bisping said it perfectly. He said, like, it takes confidence to take a day off. Because as a fighter, you gotta go. And that's how you get messed up, you get more injured because your body's tired, and you know you have this big thing and everything's riding on it. And there have been many a times where I'm going into a fight where my rent is on the line, where I don't have money to pay my bills, and then the opponent pulls out. So now I don't get paid. So I just worked for 2.5 months paying out, and then don't get fucking paid because this douchebag just doesn't show up. I'm like, we're professional athletes. You signed a contract and you just don't show up. Or our first job is to make weight. You show up 10, 15, 20 pounds overweight, and now legally we can't even fight. This has happened to me.
Happened 3 times in a row, didn't it?
3 times in a row.
I saw that.
Hold on, 3 times in a row, but it has happened 10 or more times that I just got tired of posting about it. Because then I'm like,
I'm putting hope in the people that are going to show up.
No, I've had people show up. I've sold $6,000, $10,000, $15,000 worth of ticket sales, and then my fighter, I have to let people know the day before the fight, I'm not even fighting. These people gave you their time because they knew about the fight. They got people to watch their kids. They're booking hotels. They gave you their money, and then now you're not fighting. And it happens once, and it's like, oh, it's okay. Then it happens twice, and then I literally had people telling me, oh, like I'm not coming to the fight because every time you go, it was like a joke. It's like every time you fight, they don't show up. LOL. That shit fucking hurt. I'm like, this is what I do for a living, and even the people on the outside see how much of how bad this looks. So I'm like, no, and the UFL they just provided everything. And then so having that.
They probably have backups too, I'm sure.
They do. Every question you could think of, I asked my manager before I signed with the UFL. Because like most fighters, when I get my contract, I actually read it. Unlike most fighters that my manager read it, and then I'm there going through it. I circle a screenshot. Hey, did you read this part? And he's like, yeah, I already spoke to Sophia, I already spoke to Eric. Boom. I'm like, what about this? He knows that's part of what makes me a good fighter is I pay attention to the details, not just in the fight, but outside the fight, And I'm like, hey, what about this? I'm like, what does this mean? He's like, oh yeah, fill out this. This is for your health insurance. Yeah. Fill out this. This is life insurance. Fill out this. I'm just like, okay. And I was like, well, what happens? You enter the tournament. It's like, oh yeah, because it's a 135 tournament, they have other 135ers. If somebody loses, then there'll be an alternate for your opponent. And I'm just like, they fucking thought of everything. And then when I met Harrison Rogers and everybody, it's just like, there are a lot of people talking about changing the game, but there aren't a lot of people doing anything to change it. And
it certainly isn't easy.
And I think that, man, every time I'm like, man, thank you. He's like, no, thank you guys. And I'm like, shit, you smile, I'll smile. And it makes me want to, there's no pressure. So walking out on that stage, I'm like.
Well, his business is nothing without you guys. So he needs people like you who are going to show up and put on a show, and then he'll do the rest,
All right, we can say that. there's always, everything in life is about relationships. That's not his business. It's nothing without us. We're nothing without him, right? There's always a give and take. I messaged him on Instagram. We're talking. I was like, man, just thank you for the opportunity. This, that, and the third. You know, it was a pleasure, you know, fighting for your business. You know, his response was, it's not my business. It's our business. You have stock in the company now. Because I won the first part of my bracket. So I have shares in the company.
Do you think you're going to stay at bantamweight your entire career? Or do you think you're going to move up?
No, I'm staying at bantamweight. Like, when I first started fighting, like I said, I'm kind of in between. Like, my body type, you have like endomorph, ectomorph, I'm a mesomorph, like right in the middle. I can lean out as well as go up. So I'm kind of like in the middle. I'm not the smallest bantamweight. Like, I don't walk around at 145, like 10 pounds away. But most bantamweights on professional level are not that small. That's a flyweight. And I'm not 165, 170. I walk around between 157 to 161, 162 if I'm like heavier, and that's me like eating Papa John's, like enjoying myself. That is not like majority of my diet. I'm pretty decent on my nutrition outside of camp, and because I'm still a martial artist. I'm in here every day, but I enjoy myself. Over the past, since I first started fighting, my first MMA coach fought Muay Thai, and he's also in the strength and conditioning like side of things. He's a professor of kinesiology for a college, so he's been in fitness and performance and health for 30 plus years. So he's been, when I first started, I had this goal in mind. He asked me, he's like, man, what are things you want to improve that can help your fighting? And of course I wrote this long ass fucking list out. He's like, cool, pick one or two. And I was like, what? I want it all. He's like, well, you're not gonna get it all in a fight camp. Let's focus on building a foundation for long term.
Block by block.
So what you see now, everybody's like, oh my God, he's so fast, he's so athletic, he's this, he's that. It's like, shit, well, we've been working on this since 2014, 2015. So I'm reaping the rewards and the benefits. So over the course of my whole amateur career till now, I've put on probably like a solid 7 or 8 pounds of like athletic muscle. Not like, I call it like go muscle, not show muscle, like go muscle, like things that can benefit me athletically for my sport. That's over the course of a year. When I first started fighting, I was like, I didn't have to cut weight for my first fight because I fought at 150 and I weighed 151. And then my next fight, I fought at 145 and I still weighed 151, so I cut 6 pounds. And then my third amateur fight was where it was like, dude, you're really a 35er. And in my head, I was like, how? I said, I ain't been 135 because I knew nothing about weight cutting. And I'm like, I ain't been 135 since I was like 13. What are they talking about? Like 135er. And then I did that cut. And then like the more I started to do it, and then I started to see like, oh, the 145ers are not my size. They're 6 feet, and the day of the fight, they're 100. I'll never get to 175 fucking pounds. Like if I go down to 145, when I rehydrate, like when I do my rehydration and stuff, go back, I'll get up to 150. They're 5 pounds over the weight class. The guys coming in at 145, the next day, they're close to 175. I'm like, I'm there 3 classes away from me. I'm like, when I weighed in the next day to see what I gained back, I was 148, and then I just made sure I was a little extra hydrated and got my food in, and then I got on the scale. I was like, okay, I'm like 154. I'm on the scale. I'm like 150. Like I'm not going up the massive amount. So like that's not something that I foresee in my future. I'm disciplined enough to make the weight cut, and I believe I'm a good weight. I'm a good body type and like size for the weight class. Where I'm not the smallest guy. I'm not 5'2", not 5'3". I'm also not like on the O'Malley and I'm not 5'10", 5'11". I'm 5'7", and I train all the time. So I'll tell people like, it's not like, oh, when you're not training, what do you weigh? I train all the time, but I would say fight camp training, I weigh less just because I'm training more, I'm eating cleaner and things like that. In a fight camp, I'm like 155, 155 and under, like especially 4 or 5 weeks out, I'm like 152, 153, like that. I'm not like heavy, but like I just had a fight Saturday. I'm back up to 159. Like, so like, I'm not. 145. They got that.
So on that topic, we're talking about fighters and stuff. Who's someone in your foreseeable future, if you make it to the UFC, who's someone you want to share octagon with that you just you admire their style, you really want to just clash heads with someone who you think would be a good good fight for you?
All right, I'm gonna rewind it a little bit because anytime something pops in my head, I want to like address it first.
Yeah.
The UFC and Bellator have always been the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there's a new contender, and it's the UFL.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the UFL continues to do what it's doing already, all the UFC level fighters in other programs who aren't in the UFC, because don't get it twisted, there are a lot of UFC level talent, just not in the UFC,
Mm-hmm.
or guys fighting on the undercard for a one and done. They're gonna start coming to the UFL.
Mm.
If we start getting that kind of talent,
especially. I
want to test myself on the highest level, and we know the UFC is the highest level, but that's right now.
Mm-hmm.
If these guys start making it this way, I went back and rewatched the whole fight card because I'm a fan, so I wanted to see all the fights from that perspective, not the locker room perspective.
Yeah.
And they're talking about they're going to sign their first $1 million fighter. I'm like, shh. Well, how do I morph into that guy? Like, what do I got to do to be that guy?
They've certainly got a lot of money behind them.
You know, but they have the work behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, fighters, there's nothing guaranteed in fighting. I could have been the other guy on the other end of the stick, waking up and not having the sponsorships or the deals like this, whatever. But fighters are really just fighting for opportunity. That's the beautiful thing about fighting. It's like a lot of people out in the real world are like, oh man, I'm going to fight for this and get this. Fighters are fighting just for a chance to possibly get something.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different mindset. Like, hey, there's this looming thing here, but I just want to fight good enough to get here for this opportunity that maybe gets me here.
You're sacrificing everything to get there.
You're sacrificing everything for the opportunity to do that. You didn't get it yet. You still have more work to do. So that's my thoughts.
But
on
hypothetically, just like if you were there.
So that's definitely like I've always said this my whole career. I don't know, TJ Dillashaw. Because he's so well-rounded. I've had people who've seen me train a lot more, not just my fights, but that know fighting. Like Fight IQ was like, some of the things you do like Dillashaw. I was like, yeah, I've watched a lot of the greats. Like I've watched a lot of the greats. I've watched your Mighty Mouses, your Dillashaw. I'm seeing Chad Mendes, who has like my body style. What things can I do that they do? And this, that, and the third. And I was like, man, a dream matchup. I'm like, that gets my heart pumping. Like TJ Dillashaw, that shit will be fat.
Now, man, it sucks. Things are tiring.
I know, but I'm just saying, my whole fight career.
Yeah,
I was like, man, that would be fucking great. Yeah. Like we're both well versed.
Same size.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm
looking at it.
Come on, that would be fire. So that's always been something else. Like anytime somebody asks me, I'm like, man. There are a lot of people you can fight, but I feel like that would be one.
That's awesome. He's a good fighter, well-rounded.
Very, very good.
Just to kind of dive back in time, I don't know if you discussed this before, but I've read a little bit about your story. You used to play soccer, and then you got offered to play football in California, and then there's an injury. But what was factoring that in as well? What was it that you're just like, I'm going to do this full time? This is what I want to do with my life, with MMA in general.
It provided a feeling that I feel a lot of us search for, but I think a lot of people on their life journey they get stuck in the search phase, and they were searching for something they want, but all that time you spent searching for it, you could be creating it yourself. Like it's 2023. If you asked me back in 2015, like, man, you'll be a professional athlete signed to a major organization, this, that, and the third, I wouldn't have been like, you're lying. I'd be like, I could definitely see that because I know my work ethic and stuff like that. But like, it's just, man, it's just the time that you put in on everything. And a lot of times, like, I felt like I was searching for a feel. Like, so I'm searching. I did that when I played soccer. I did that when I played football. And the thing that gave me that feeling is being a part of something greater than myself, like a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to win when you have 11 individuals, both on a soccer and a football field, and you're trying to get 11 people
Dependent. You got to be dependent on them.
on each other.
Yeah.
It really opens you up for like, you have to be codependent. Like that quarterback touches the ball every play, every single play, and you're one of six other eligible people to touch that ball, and then it has to be the right play that comes from another person. And then also the reverse of that is their job is to stop. There's so many moving parts, but I love being a part of like a machine, something greater than myself. I love the way it felt to be a part of a team and do things. And at the end of that, knowing that your hard work can be rewarded. But in a team sport, like you can lose and you could have done it. You can literally do everything in your power. You can't do everything. You can do everything in your power. And so from a competitive standpoint and like a life standpoint, this is like, I always wanted to be a professional athlete. I didn't know what arena it would be in. And then after like I got hurt in college playing football, like I thought I would coach football because I love football. And then I was like, man, I got back and I just started training martial arts. I always was fascinated with like self-defense, and I got into a lot of fights and all that kind of stuff. And I just walked it. A lot of people think about it. You gotta just walk in the gym, go try it out. I walked in the gym, tried it out, fell in love. And then the more time I spent there, it started hitting all those things that I was looking for, that feeling of being a part of something greater than myself. It's a team, but it's also a team of individuals. So you have to be self-accountable more than anything. And what martial arts does is it teaches you self-awareness. Like I tell my students, young kids and adults, like when I'm teaching a jiu-jitsu class, like jiu-jitsu is the art of control that leads to submission. It's the art of control that leads to submission, right? But that control part, when you first start jiu-jitsu, you think, oh yeah, I got to control this person to submit them. When on the flip side, it's about controlling yourself first. And then the more control you have over yourself, the easier it is to control someone else. So that's kind of like just how the journey started. And then like, you want to talk about all in, I fucking went all in. I quit. I had 2 jobs. Then I went to 1 job and so I could spend more time in the gym. And I went from 1 job, full-time job, to made it part-time, to made it to on-call. And then I was like, bro, what are you doing? Just get rid of it so there's nothing to fall back on, because then you'll have no choice but to give. You think you're giving everything. Yeah, you think you're giving everything, but you're like, man, if I just stay in this company and work once a month, I'm in the system. So if this doesn't work out, and then I was like, bro, that's fear. And it wasn't fear of failing, because I never was afraid to fail. It was fear of the unknown. And I was like, man, let that shit go. When I let it go, and I was 100% all in, I'm like, now this is my full-time job. The only thing that's never lied to me in my life, including myself, I've lied to myself. Everybody's done it before. Has been the mats, the martial arts gym. There's nothing more pure than martial arts, because when you're tired, you can tell yourself all kind of shit. But what you're doing will determine what it really is. Oh man, you're tired, you're at the bottom, somebody's sweating in your face, you just want a breath and you're getting crushed, and you look at the time, you're like, time out. No, there ain't no time out. That's it. Like, you have to give 100%. You can tell me at the end of that round, oh man, that was good. But you know what you felt inside. The mats will never lie. And like that's been, the more time I spent on the mats, it's just been like a testament that everything that I felt was true.
Absolutely. So I know you lived in Georgia for majority of your life, and you've been training for some time. You know, most fighters, they have a stomping ground place where they train, which, molds them into who they are, depending on who's their coach, molds their style. How has the Middle Georgia MMA scene helped you become a better fighter?
Man, I say it all the time. You can go back, scroll through my posts. Anytime somebody's like shares a post, I'm like, hey, 478 on the mat. Like 478 on the mat, because anytime we go anywhere and they're like, oh, where you fighting from? Georgia? They're like, oh man, you from Atlanta? I'm like, no. I'm Middle Georgia, like Macon, Milledgeville, Warner Robins area. I lived in Milledgeville for a long time, and my original gym that I started at is in Milledgeville. It's Milledgeville Academy of Mixed Martial Arts. And then when I started prepping for fights and stuff like that, I met Lathan and Cole, like through Frank Mullis, who who knows, and has history, good friends of Cole and Bubby Mitchell, it was the complete opposite. You hear about these gym rivalries and like, oh, this gym don't like that gym. Their gym's within 20 miles. And it was the complete opposite. Like, I was getting ready for a fight, and we didn't have an MMA program. We're mixed martial arts, but we had Muay Thai, kickboxing, and then jiu-jitsu. There was no official, like, MMA, like, whatever. So instead of Frank Muller saying, I don't want you to go train with those guys, he was like, oh, you want to fight? Go get your wrestling in at Rush, Bubby. They got a whole fight team, and they have MMA classes. And I was like, all right. I started showing up, and there was a welcoming, like, hey, let's do this together. And then you meet Cole, and I, like, fanned out the first time I met Cole because I've watched this guy, like, grow up from the UFC, the Fight House, him and Nate Diaz,
Georgia legend.
Georgia legend. I'm like, meet Cole, and I'm like training for my first fight, trying not to fan out, like I pay attention to practice, and and he's like, this is what you're doing, and I'm just like,
I felt the same way because I did that doc on him, and I always wanted to do something. I always been a fan of the sport, and you don't really hear about people from Georgia. You hear all people, Conor McGregor's Ireland. You hear people from Vegas, but like Georgia is like. He really kind of put MMA on the map.
Him and Forrest Griffin. And Forrest Griffin's Athens.
Yeah.
Like, it's like Forrest Griffin, probably him and Stephen Bonner single-handedly changed UFC, trajectory of UFC for life.
Yeah.
That one fight.
Blew the ratings up. Everyone fell in love.
I remember watching it. So, like, seeing all this stuff and then meeting Cole. And then, like, he has academy here. And it was just like, it means so much, like, to be from this middle Georgia area, because I'm nothing against Atlanta, but like Atlanta gets a lot of shine and they have a lot of gyms and a lot of big name gyms and all that stuff. And people think you have to be at a huge fight gym or in a huge city in order to have that kind of success. I'm like, do you know it's a 20-time UFC vet here that he's not the gym owner and is never here. He teaches 70% of the classes. Yeah. So I'm learning from the GOAT himself, like jiu-jitsu. Like, Cole hasn't fought in the UFC in 6 years? He's still on the all-time list for most submissions.
Mm-hmm. I was looking that up. Charles Oliveira.
Charles Oliveira at the top.
He went in between 145 and 155, but he's got some of the most submissions.
He's got
in the UFC.
For the longest, he was tied for number one. There were 3 guys tied for number one for most submissions in the UFC. And he hasn't fought in like 6-7 years. It's like, dude, like, what do you, like, you don't have to be at this massive gym, because a lot of times people go to these big gyms because they like, oh, this guy or this girl who's in the UFC runs this gym.
And they're not even there.
They're not even there, right? Because they're training in the UFC, or they have their camps, or that gym is using their face as a draw. I'm like, no. It's the things that people don't see. When you come in here, you're like, oh man, this is a 2,000 square foot facility with only 1,200 square foot of space, and you come in here and get some class, and you can come get this work is what you can get, right? Yeah. And then you go down to Rush, where I call that the dungeon. I'm like, if this is the attic, that's the dungeon, right? And it's like, we have all these things, and I just do my best all the time. I'm like, yo, Middle Georgia, they don't really you don't realize the value of something until you're in the door, and you would have had to experience better and or worse to understand the value of something. And I've been to a lot of other gyms, and this is the best for me. Maybe not for you, whatever. For my situation, I left Milledgeville, and I just I was the general manager of Mama, and then when I knew I was all in on the fighting, like, I came this way because I need to spend more time being a student, not just giving. I love giving back, and I have to be an instructor. It just gives me my fight life balance. And so now I can do the same thing here. And I'm here with the GOATs. I'm here with Lathan Lawson, Cole Miller, and Bubby Mitchell. And this 478, this Middle Georgia MMA is like, it's like no other.
Yeah.
All right.
It's good to see, people coming out and repping this area.
Oh,
it doesn't get a lot of love.
Yeah.
It's Atlanta, or people go down to Florida and fight an American top team, but they're really, because that's what Cole did originally. He fought an American top team. There was no place when he was fighting, but he created that.
Yeah.
That's what I admired so much about him. He brought it to where he lived, so people that could pursue the same dream that he did. I really admired that about him.
Yeah.
I saw you posted about doing some commentary on the next coming fight. And I love hearing actual fighters and their opinions on upcoming fights and stuff. So I got a few I just want to ask you. I don't know if you've watched any of the past cards or anything.
Yeah, I have, but I've been like tuned in for my fights, so I haven't seen all the fights.
Yeah.
Normally I'm like watching all the fights, but like when I'm getting ready for a fight, when I say I tune everything out, yeah. But go ahead.
Okay, predictions for this one. So Jones versus Gane. How you feeling? How you feeling about that one?
Jones easy dub.
Decision, you think? That's why I'm thinking. I'm thinking about decision.
No, TKO.
Oh, really?
All right, look.
Gane?
Huh?
On Cyril Gane?
Yes.
Really?
All right. First of all, Cyril Gane's striking is really good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is Ngannou's wrestling that good?
He's just a big guy.
I'm asking a question. Is his wrestling that good? It's okay, right?
Yeah.
And what did it do to Cyril Gane?
Took him down.
Yeah,
held him down.
With no ACLs.
Yeah.
And not good ground and pound.
Mm-hmm.
Way less experienced than Jones. Jones is gonna get there. I think he'll play with Gane, like they'll have technical striking.
Yeah.
It's not that Gane can't knock you out, but he's such a technical striker for his size that he does John Jones-esque. Like when John Jones strikes, he'll cut angles and switch stances and throw snap kicks and this. So I think John Jones will play with him for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if John Jones wants to take down, Cyril Gane's not gonna stop him.
Yeah.
Like maybe he stops 1.
Yeah.
2. If John Jones puts
he's big now. Big John Jones.
Yeah, I know.
Not light heavyweight Jones.
He wasn't small when he was at light heavyweight.
Yeah.
That's just what he cut to.
Yeah.
But like, I think just wrestling and grappling is such a huge disadvantage. It's like Cyril Gane can never catch up the amount of mat time and hours that John Jones has put in wrestling and MMA grappling to bridge the gap. I just don't see it. Like, but it's fighting. You never know when you get fucking clipped with something or like. But this is how I look at fighting. Do a scale.
Mm-hmm.
What's the high percentage chance for Gane to win? It's via striking, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably his highest percent chance.
Yeah.
Is it his wrestling?
No.
Is he going to be submitting?
No.
Is he going to be cage wrestling? No. Is it going to be like so? That's on his scale. Let's call it 10 pounds. Now you put on John Jones' scale. Could he knock you out through striking? 10 pounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could he hold you on the cage and not let you do much? Yeah. What about wrestling? Yeah. Can he submit you? Yeah. Okay, we're at 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the Vegas betting odds. Damn right. Like you like there's always anomalies that anything can happen. Like this is fighting.
Yeah.
But you're normally gonna go with the person that like has more. For me, that's why that's why the Dillashaw fight. When you asked me, I'm like, this guy presents so many variables.
Yeah.
Like the person and the fighter I have to become to beat that. That means I have to push myself to the fucking edge. Like I wrote something because I was writing my gratitude journal before I go out for a fight. And it's just how I felt. It's always my most raw emotions, no matter how good or bad. And I've always done it since like after my second or third amateur fight. And I just like, it made me think of it because I said I have to push myself to the edge. Like these guys like John Jones and the elite of the elite have pushed themselves to the edge and then they jump. They don't need to push. Like, you know, people say, I don't want to stand too close to the edge. I don't want nobody to push me over. And I just wrote, like, in my journal, like, standing inches away from the edge and no need of a push. Because I fall freely. Not hoping that my wings open up and allow me to fly. But I know that the time I spent on the edge for years and years and years constructing my wings, that they'll make me soar off into the sunset.
It's pretty philosophical there.
That's just how I felt. And then I just finished it with, and I'll fly right into the sun if need be. Yeah. And that was just me telling myself, like, going out to this fight. Soaring off into the sunset looks pretty, like a walk-off knockout. But if I need to make this a fight, and I need to go to hell, essentially, like fly directly into the sun, I'd be willing to go head first into it. And my head coach, my best friend, he knew exactly how I was feeling because right before the fight, I'm in the cage, just feeling the music. I'm just like, you know, I came out to that song for my grandmother, and I'm just feeling it. He said, "Hey," he said, "if he wants to fight, give him one," because the guy was coming out,
mean mugging,
doing all this. And he's like, "If he wants a fight, give him one." And I knew exactly what that meant. And that meant if we got to make this a war, let's make it. But, you know, you want to ride off into the sunset. You want it to look good. Show them y'all ain't even on the same level. Do that too.
You did that.
So it's like, you know, that's what that is. And I just feel like, you know, if you want to be elite, you're gonna have to push yourself to that level. I believe Cyril Gane is an elite striker. I believe John Jones is an elite mixed martial artist, and that's the difference.
Absolutely. And one more prediction. The Usman and Edwards. How did you feel about? You thought Usman was going to win the first one, didn't you?
Yeah,
I thought he was too.
Yeah.
I was like Usman by decision.
He was winning. He lost that fight in 3 seconds. This is fighting. This is what I'm saying, right? Usman has more ways to win, but there's always the possibility. Always the possibility.
Yeah,
always the variable.
One thing I saw is he took him down, which he never really been taken down before. And he took his back, technically. Took his back.
Well, he did take him down. It was with like a double under, like a body lock, and then like an outside trip or whatever.
And then he knocked him out, which is something that no other fighter's ever done. So if you take what he's done, which he won the first round, and then he lost the rest of the rounds, the last 3 rounds. But if you take what he's done compared to everyone else, I see he has the best chance compared to everyone else that Usman has fought.
Yeah, all right, so Usman has done what we call cleaned out the division.
Yeah.
He beat the only person who I feel like is the closest to him, even after the Leon Edwards fight. He can talk as much shit as he wants, but it's Colby Covington. Like, he's the only one that will probably have the wrestling skill set and that gritty to like continue to push. As far as now in the 170 division, you obviously talk about Khamzat and all this other stuff.
Too.
Yeah, Bilal. And like I give those guys a credit. Yeah. But that's now. Remember what Usman has done over the past. Like, this is the issue with the media day we live in. It's like, what have you done for me now? It's like, it took me 10 years to get here. I got here. I defended the belt 7 times, 6 times, 5 times, whatever. I lost once, and now it's like, oh my God, he's human. Bitch, we've always been human. But
they seem invincible.
You do, but sometimes, man, that loss was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I lost so much other stuff.
Absolutely.
Don't mean to interrupt. No, you're good. No.
There was are you familiar with Will Harris, the documentary guy? He did the Dagestan Chronicles for Habib. Okay, he's a documentary guy.
Black dude.
Yeah. So he hung around with Usman a lot, and he said that when he got back in the locker room, he's like, there's like a weight lifted off of my shoulder when he lost, because he's like, now I don't have all this pressure on me from being the champ, and he's about to beat Anderson Silva's win streak or title defense record.
Can I show you something?
Yeah,
Can I show you something? I'm gonna bring it. Here. I'm gonna bring it here. So this is a message. I'll keep the person anonymous, but if they see this, they'll know who they are. A message that was sent to me that I looked at a lot throughout this training camp going into this fight. And this is a picture of me after my first loss. All right, just disappointed, head chin up, but just disappointed because I felt like I didn't get into a fight. I felt like I got styled on. A dude came in here, beat me in a minute because he choked me out. I never took a punch. So the next day waking up, it felt miserable to have lost. And I feel fine. I'm like,
you didn't take.
I didn't even fucking fight.
Yeah.
And I read this a lot, and it says, "I see a champion, a man with his head up. The L is over with. The O is no longer something to stare at. It's in the past. Worth reflection, but not dwelling. Now is forward. Nobody else is willing to go to the depths of hell to come out the other end. A phoenix must rise from its ashes. You too will rise and show the world what we're lucky to see every day." And I read that multiple times, lots and lots of times before, going into this fight. Because because it was his weight, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm waiting to look, like, it was just a weight, like,
Yeah.
how can you leave me alone? Like, you're never going to lose. You're never going to lose. You can go all the way to the top undefeated. And people make this thing like they think losing is losing.
I read on Union Recorder, you said you want to start your own MMA gym at a later point in your career. Is Middle Georgia or somewhere in Georgia the place you want to do that?
I'd like to, but it's not like set in stone. Like, it has to be here. Like, the beautiful thing about fighting is, like, you can have a home gym, but fighting takes you everywhere. So it allows me to, like, experience the world in different places. And, like, oh, man, would this be a place that I want to live and, like, dedicate my time to? I've done a lot in Middle Georgia. I would love for it to be, you know, in somewhere in Georgia or Middle Georgia, or, you know, if I had the possibility to do so. But I'm not against having it any other places. I've always said, like, if I was going to move anywhere, like Tennessee, North Carolina, those are all options, like, you know, stuff I would like to, like, places I would like to be. So if, like, that's where I end up, that's where I end up. I don't have, like, a definitive concrete answer, because for
This
me,
is early, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, right now, my dedication and my focus is on to being the best martial artist I can be. And when I can do that now, so my gym will turn out better, it's just like a goal that's going to help my next goal.
Yeah.
But I don't want to focus on that, because then it'll distract from, like, what I'm currently doing. And as long as I'm here, like, becoming a better martial artist, then, you know, that's what my focus is right now. I haven't, like, it's got to be here in Georgia or in this. I haven't even figured that out yet. I'm just like, man, last year I fought in Miami, never been to Miami. This year I fought in Arizona, never been to Phoenix. Yeah. My next fight is in Utah. I ain't never been to Utah. So I'm just like, man, this is like, this is literally like, Lathan was like, the day before we left, he was like, man, you ever think you'd be traveling the world with your best friend fighting motherfuckers? I was like, I didn't answer him. I just laughed. And then when we got to Arizona, I went on like a morning walk, like just, you know, just clear my head and stuff like that. On the week of weight cut, I just like to go on like morning walks and shit. And I was like, actually, I did think I'd be doing this. I was like, that was the plan. I was like, last year we was in Miami. This year we're in Arizona. Shit, we're gonna be in Utah. And I was like, shit, who knows where we'll be next year? Like, you know, we're fortunate enough to I don't say it in a morbid way, but you're fortunate enough to be alive next year. Like, you know, like, we'll see where we're at next year. Absolutely. That's kind of like how my whole, like, for people who follow me on Instagram and Facebook, like, my whole saying, like, came to be, like, it's a good day to be alive, but an even better day to be great. And that came after my first car accident and just being on bed rest and not be able to do anything physically. And I just tell myself, like, if you're just surrounded to just being an athlete, is everything you always had to offer to this world physical. And that's when I really started to, like, double down on, like, knowledge and my mental training. I was like, man, you got to get your mind right if you want to be of some sort of value. Because what if you're crippled? What if you do this? What if you can't walk? Are you just going to be...
You're going to break mentally.
Yeah. I'm just like, is that it? And I was like, nah, it's not it. And I started investing in myself mentally, and it's been the best investment I've ever done in my entire life. And just like, that's where that saying comes from. It's a good day to be alive, but an even better day to be great. And like, I say it, now I have it on my shirt, you know, my Lunar Unlimited brand. Shout out Lunar Unlimited. Go on millions.co and just where it has athletes, put in Moon, and you'll see my whole shop.
We'll link it.
Yeah, you link it. But that's what that means for me. Like, it has my brand, Lunar Unlimited, because my fight name is Moon. I'm Amun Cosme. And, like, you know, I'm big on philosophy, so I, like, use a lot of the sayings, like, you know, shoot for the stars. If you land short, you land, you know, you land on the moon. If you fall short, you land on the moon, or vice versa. Shoot for the moon, and if you're off by a little bit, you'll fall amongst the stars. So it's like, people say the sky's the limit. I say there is no limit. And like, kind of like part of my model's brand is like, you got to, you know, test your limit to know your limit to push your limit, and when you push your limit, you break your limits. And like, do that with Lunar Unlimited. Like, the sky is not the limit. Like, shoot past that.
Absolutely.
And like, that's what that saying just means for me. It's a good day to be alive, better day to be great. Every day you wake up, no matter what circumstance you're in, like, you got breath, you ain't dead. So like it's a good day. And you can start off your day with something positive. And like, for me, I'm like, one of my greatest fears in life is being mediocre or average, because like, it takes no effort at all. No effort.
Yeah.
It takes effort to even be like the worst of the worst. Like, you know, but like you can just wake up and be a middle of the pack person and do everything that society does and be a sheep to all the controlling forces out there, from media to the
Social
food
media,
industry
all that stuff,
to the every industry out there that's looking to gain your attention, your time, your money, your energy, all the real valuable things. But it's like, if it's a good day to be alive, whatever that greatness is for you, go be great. Like if you strive to be great, you'll push yourself further than you ever have. And I tell people, this isn't like a thing I'm saying for athletes. Like when my mom and my sister come to me and they're like, man, I like the words of wisdom you put out today. That shit touches me more than somebody just like random over Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
But then the people who hit me is like, I've never met you before, but I follow your page and like just your positive words, they mean a lot, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was really struggling today, and I'm like, shit, I'm struggling every day too.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it comes off like that is because it's genuine. I don't have like prefabricated like one-liners that I'm just like, you ready to go? Like, no, I'm just like, when I normally have words of wisdom after workout, when I've like pushed my body and my brain after something,
your mind's in a good spot.
Or a bad spot.
Yeah.
And like, I'll drop something and people are like, oh my God, I was feeling just like that. Like, you know, so that's what that saying means for me. And I've been working with millions and to get the perfect shirt designed. And I know perfect's not a thing, but goddamn, if it's that's perfect to my, like what I wanted to see. My brand on the front with a moon on the back, and on half of the moon is blacked out. And it has my saying, it's a good day to be alive, but a better day to be great. My signature on the bottom. So it's like, for me, I'm like, when I see that walking around, that's just a reminder, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all the questions I got for you. You gave me a lot to work with. I appreciate it. Everyone go follow Amun. I'll link the Instagram, all the social medias. Anyone you want to shout out?
Just my family and friends. Normally after a fight in the cage, I always thank my teammates, my friends and stuff. But I was really emotional just about like my grandmother and my brother that passed away. And it's not that I forgot to thank everybody. I do appreciate everyone, my family, my team, and everything. But I think, you know, just because I didn't say it on the big stage doesn't mean that's not what I felt at that moment. That time was for my grandmother and my brother. Like, I just want to let everybody know that supports me. Like, I call them fans, I call them supporters, family, friends, giving me more than I can ever receive in return. And with the UFL platform, it's going to allow me to do some things that I didn't think would be possible for maybe another 2 to 3 years, but I've decided I'm going to do them this year. And it's working with some nonprofit organizations, ways to give back through martial arts to not just people I don't know, but to also to family and friends and stuff. I'm going to set up like little scholarships and stuff for my nieces and nephews, and I'd like to be able to pay for their martial arts training as long as they can like have good grades and aren't acting like little shitbags and stuff like that. To do this for my family and friends that support me, and work also with my friend Jimmy Green, who has a nonprofit he's launching called Gifted in the Gi, where he's able to provide martial arts to kids and those in need who need it, you know, but can't afford to do so. So I'm going to be working with some stuff. I just had a guy who runs an organization in Arizona. I was in Arizona for 1 week. He saw me fight and was like, hey, can you send a video to, it's called AGNB, All Gas, No Breaks. And it's like, you know, they're doing like community service projects in Arizona, this, that, and the third. I had no intentions. And I was like, I'll send you a video, but I'll do you one better. Tell me what you're doing. Because me and my mom opened our first business, Nurturing Minds, and then we started another branch of it called Nurturing the Community, where we give back to the community and offered a lot of hours of just like, you know, community service and doing our own little things to give back. Because I honestly believe, like, if you're receiving without giving back, then you're just like, dead to the world. Like, what are you doing with it? That's all martial arts is about. That's how it improves, evolves, and continues to be one of the greatest ways to kind of learn about life in life, you know, because it's been passed down. And like I said, technique is unlimited, and it'll pass on forever. So, like, you know, I got some things that I think that this year, just because the position the UFL has put me in, has eased so much other pressure in my life, that I'll be able to start giving back a lot sooner than I thought, and that right there fulfills my heart because I know that I wanted to give back with my gym, but like why wait until I have a gym to give back when now I have opportunity through the UFL, paying well and offering insurance and eliminating a lot of other stressful areas in my life. Now I can give back today, tomorrow, working with my mom, and then working with All Gas No Brakes, which is in Arizona. It's not even here, but I'm like, hey, I could also let's get on the FaceTime.
Branch out.
Yeah, let's branch out. Let's do this. Let's affect people everywhere, not just right next to us. Because you start dropping seeds all across the United States, it's like more people could benefit from just your presence. So let's figure out how we can leverage that. And it's like do that, and then down in Georgia and Savannah, working with Gifted in the Geese with Jimmy Green in Savannah, and then I'm like, I'm gonna start my own little scholarship fund through my business, Lunar Unlimited, and get family, friends, and those that are close to me. Start with them because they've been supporting me my whole career. Get my little nieces and nephews boxing, kickboxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu. See if I can get that
going early.
get that paid for through my scholarship fund, and then obviously Lunar Unlimited is gonna be working with all these other organizations, so maybe we can really inflict some change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amun.